It's Friday Night Live, and I am right on time, 5 minutes late. Thank you, Law Nerds, for hanging with me. A reminder for our beloved replay crew. Everything will be time-stamped down below, so if you want to just see certain stuff, hit the timestamps. Tonight, we are doing a quick weekly roundup, including what's going on with the James Charles employment lawsuit, what's going on with YouTuber Boogie2988 and his arrest and apparent threats and harassment against him. Before that, the Triller lawsuit, final Judge Sass. Yes, I did a quick case, not even a case brief. It was a YouTube short on that, but we're just going to touch on it real quick for everybody in the back. And then we are going to get into Girardi, Erika Girardi, not YouTube commentator, Twitter legal commentator Ron Richards is seeking to be appointed as one of the litigating attorneys in the case. And Erika Girardi's attorneys were like, what we're not going to do is this. And we're going to break down that 69-page filing. Don't worry, we're not going to read every single page. There's a lot to do tonight. I've gone basic. It's summertime. And we busted out the claw this evening. We've come with the claw, but I've got a glass for it, so I feel like that makes it fancy. So we're going to have a claw. Let me know where you're watching from. Am I seeing that somebody is watching from Antarctica? What is Law Nerds around the world? Welcome. And in the chat, let me know if you are a new Law Nerd that found me either from Phil DeFranco this week or H3. Just put in PDS or H3 in the chat so we know where you're coming from this week, because I know we've got a lot of new faces. Don't forget to like and thumbs up, and let's just get into it. Let's get into it. It's time. Hey there. If we haven't met yet, I'm Emily D. Baker, the badass lawyer and everyone's favorite legal commentator. I'm the host of The Emily Show, and I break down the legal shit behind the news and pop culture stories we all want to talk about. I have been a licensed attorney for over 15 years, but this is not legal advice. I should warn you, I'm a big fan of the cursey words. This channel is where the law nerds unite to talk about facts, not fuckery. Welcome, everybody. So on Friday night, we have a couple different segments. We do ideally a weekly roundup of just kind of the quick legally related topics or quick updates on the cases that we're tracking all across the internet. Then we do a deep dive, sometimes just Q&A. After the deep dive, I will do Q&A. I will try to pick up super chats as I go in between topics, but then we're going to get into the bulk of questions at the end, because honestly, I'm ADHD and it's easier for me to focus if we do all the questions at once. Otherwise, I will just gallop into a different direction and not come back and finish my thought. And then all of you that are linearly tracking things will be like, we never finished that thought. I'll be like, my bad. So that is why we structure the show the way we do for me, so that I can keep things clear and easy for you and for the replay crew. Thank you so much, Kristen, showing appreciation for the official legal correspondent for the H3 podcast. Emily, you're blowing up. It's been a wild week. Do you guys want to talk about YouTube for a second? We can talk about YouTube for a second before we get into the weekly roundup as part of our welcome. This week has been bananas. It started last week. So last Monday, we did a live stream and hit 100,000 subscribers. It was bananas. And we did a live stream. We watched the numbers roll over. Then as a celebration, we dyed the hair purple on Friday. Friday was my birthday. It was a very exciting week. Then this week, we get, we're on the internet on Monday, and there's a clip of my commentary on the Phil DeFranco show. I enjoy Phil DeFranco's coverage of things. I like the way he will give kind of news reporting plus commentary, and it's always very clear, like, this is what's happening, and I think this is stupid, or I think this is good, or I think that what the fuck, and I really appreciate that. So I enjoy watching his coverage. So I was absolutely blown away. And I immediately saw it in the comments. The law nerds felt very validated. They were like, yes, the Triller lawsuit that we all love to hate. Then as the week went on, the H3 After Dark show was talking about me. I was literally in the pickup line at my kid's school, and my phone started blowing up, and they were like, they mentioned you by name. I was like, what? Then I got a DM from Ethan who was like, hey, do you want to call in? I'm like, I'll be home in 10. So we can do that then. That'll be great. Sure, we'll do that. And then had a great conversation with them. I really enjoyed it. I kind of blacked out for half of it because I was really nervous. Like, really? So I don't know what I said all the way, but I hope that it was accurate because literally not even low key freaking out, high key freaking out. I was just like, what is even happening? So Dr. Raleigh is saying we're at 118,000. You guys, it's amazing. Law nerds everywhere. I love it. Celine, thank you. Or Selena, I always change the way I pronounce your name and I apologize. Hi from Tijuana, Mexico, drinking arrogant bastard ale from Stone. I hope that you had a good week at work. It's so good to see you. I see my parents in the chat. Hello, mom and dad. It's good to see you guys over on the Facebooks. I love that you still fangirl. I will fangirl about everything. I have no chill. Like, I do not have the capacity to chill. And I was telling my kids, and my kids like, yeah, I mean, but it's not Technoblade. My kids are not impressed at all. Thank you so much for the feedback about H3. I was really excited, and I'm excited to see the foot soldiers over here. I know we moderate our chat so it doesn't become Thunderdome in a different way. But I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed the conversation with them, and I like talking to creators who want to use whatever legal knowledge I have as a resource to their commentary. I'm not really here to pick sides most of the time. I really don't. I generally don't care that much about the outcomes of the lawsuits. I like watching how the sausage is made. The Triller lawsuit, though, I have thoughts not based on the conduct, but based on how bad the complaint is. I'm like, this particular complaint needs to go down in flames. It is horribly written. But overall, with the suit, I was looking at it going, I understand where they're at. I still think it's fair use, my opinion, but fair use is a defense to copyright, which means somebody can sue you for copyright infringement and you have to go and prove that it's fair use so that you can prove you have a defense. It's like, yeah, but I'm allowed to do that because here's why. And I think that we need to see creators standing up, and we see all kinds of different creators standing up and saying, no, we're not going to be pushed around. And that's exactly what I think the H3 podcast is indicating, and Ethan is indicating that they want to do. It's like, no, if you start bullying creators, where does it stop? So it'll be interesting to see where it goes from there. And I'm going to keep an eye on it. If they amend the complaint, I will stop dragging it to filth. But if they don't, then I won't, because it is not good. It is not good. It is not good. Jen, hello from Scotland. Thank you for being here. So yeah, it's been kind of a whirlwind of it. It binged. And now we're at 118,000 because it binged. Oh, it binged. Move your head. Ah! It binged. I can't believe it. I still can't believe everything that's happened this week. I still can't believe what has gone on with this channel over the past 6 months. And I am just absolutely blown away. So let's get into our weekly roundup. Then we're going to get into that Girardi document because it is on the longer side, and the weekly roundup is definitely on the faster side. So let me pull up. I have most of my stuff pulled up. We're going to just make sure we have it all pulled up and talk about a few quick topics. We're going to start. Oh, because my screen share is not on. Look, man, we're professionals here. I try my best, but I've been having tech issues all day. It's just going to be what it is. So this story, I should do the things so we can timestamp the things. I'll do it. We have talked a lot about the James Charles employment litigation lawsuit. I have shared how I felt about James Charles going off on Twitter about it. That is in another stream. But what I don't like to see ever is that now the woman who is in the lawsuit is reporting that she is receiving death threats. Here's the thing. The employment litigation and the stuff in the article are kind of separate. And so I wanted to see those addressed separately from James Charles. I realize that that's a lot to ask from someone. And James Charles did win our Court of Public Opinion YouTuber Worst Apology. And he came out and made a statement and said, look, I'm essentially being blackmailed because she's going to put this article out about me to try to force litigation. I have feelings about this because here's why. James Charles's attorneys have appealed a pretty basic decision over the course of 2 years. They could have paid for mediation and just gone to mediation. They didn't. The court was like, but you didn't, and appealed. So this litigation is dragging out for over 2 years, and this is not an uncommon litigation strategy. Whether it's the litigation strategy here or all of this stuff is happening by happenstance, I don't know. My opinion, I am not on this legal team. I like to do commentary. But if they are dragging this out so that the party on the other side will either get financially exhausted or fatigued to the point where they are just like, fine, we have to settle it, we'll give in on our demands, then isn't prolonged litigation also holding someone hostage because you are trying to just outspend them in litigation? This is a very real part of civil litigation. It is a very real concern for any civil litigant, is how exhausted are our resources going to get? And at what point do I have to pull the plug? Which is why I don't fault people when they settle cases, because being financially drained in a suit, even if at the end of the day, a judge is like, you win and you have drained all of your assets. But what did you win though? You want a judge saying, yay, you're right. But at what cost? And if the other side cannot reimburse you for attorney's fees, if you're not entitled for attorney's fees, if you're not awarded them, which is not a guarantee in all cases, it can be a lot. What I didn't like to see was James kind of conflating or combining the two things and saying she's making these false allegations against me. This is what I'm taking away from his Twitter video. She's making these allegations against me to blackmail me or hold me hostage in the litigation that we're in. And so, of course, his fan base has then turned around, according to this article, and started sending her death threats. She alleged that he had used racial slurs, that she was doing 2 jobs 7 days a week. James said her claims are ridiculous, untrue, defamatory, and the craziest claims you could imagine. So he's calling her out and saying, you're lying about me, you're crazy. So then the article goes on to say, I feel like up until this point, everyone on the internet had a lot to say, and I didn't have the opportunity to share my truth or my experience, she said. But since Mr. Charles uploaded his response, which has been viewed by nearly 2 million times, she has received death threats, demand to kill herself, and abuse about her appearance, which is always like the go-to for people. Just why? Like, appearance isn't up for conversation. It's just baseless bullying. But again, my thoughts. Her lawyer told BBC that the legal action had been delayed by 2 years by Charles's legal team. After Kelly was fired, we sent a letter trying to resolve this amicably. They said no. And the legal team said our only option is to pursue this to the fullest extent of the law. Miss, I think that's Priavi, confirmed Mr. Charles's complaint that the overall cost of the resulting legal action now ran into hundreds of thousands of dollars, but said it was not unusual for this type of claim. The longer it takes, the more expensive it becomes. Yes, the case can now be made public following a failed attempt at arbitration. No court date has been set, but we've seen trial dates in there set, but the case is on appeal. So the case has to come back from the appellate court, and those trial dates can keep getting bumped until it comes back from the appeals court. There's really nothing that can move forward. So she is now working in digital marketing and has no desire to return to working with influencers. I am not surprised. It's just, this is a beef between these two people with an employment litigation lawsuit underlying it. I just don't understand why death threats against her become the way that we respond to this. And I don't also understand who's writing for James so that they are making death threats against her when she said, "This was my work experience." Those are her words. Do we know if they're true or not? No, it's what she has said. I don't understand the sending people death threats. I will never understand that. But I do know from experience receiving death threats, it's a stressful thing, and it can be a stressful thing, particularly if you're not prepared for it with regard to an influencer in a litigation suit, a litigation employment lawsuit. It can be expensive for them, but this lawsuit's not that deep. I think her statement to the media made it that deep. And why she chose to do that at this time, she may be wondering if that was the right thing, but she's allowed to talk about what her experience was, but she's also in litigation. And you always know how I feel about talking when you're in litigation, because her discussions about James were also discussions about her work environment with James. And this is another example of when you're in litigation and there is discussion while you're in litigation, it can go in unexpected ways and it can affect litigation because now James feels outed and cornered and like you're saying all these crazy things about me. So fuck you, I'm not settling was what I took away from that video. And this is why talking during litigation can have these unintended consequences like we're seeing here, where it can really puts parties back up against the wall where they're like, now we will never settle. We are going to fight this till the ends of the earth or bankruptcy or both. And that wouldn't have happened if there was just commentary on this lawsuit without any additional comment from her, I don't think. Maybe it would, maybe not. But you have a right to shut the fuck up. You have an absolute right to not speak. It's different if the other party speaks and you feel forced to, but James also had the opportunity to say, we're in ongoing litigation. I question what's said because of the ongoing litigation and leaving it at that. Jules, thank you for the love from the foot soldiers. So those are kind of my thoughts with regard to, again, parties talking about litigation while they're in litigation. I know that it's hard, but also it can be a problem like this because you also, and I really enjoy Ethan and Gila, but you heard Ethan say, and we'll talk about this in Triller, like, look, I might want to talk about mediating this. Did that induce Triller to be like, okay, well, we'll go back after you again. If you want to go into mediation, we can accommodate you. Let's file this lawsuit again. I think they're doing it for clout, but there can always be those questions. Let's move on to talking about Boogie 2988. I have seen this reported by a lot of individuals on the internet. I know Phil DeFranco covered it. I know that Keemstar spoke to him and covered it. I saw that in one of the articles about this case. So we're going to touch on that briefly. And if you know what's up with the Boogie case, put a 1 in the chat. Let's see I want to see who's following this, law nerds. Who is following the ongoing YouTube stuff? Put a 1 in the chat. Let me know. So with regard to Boogie 2988, there was an arrest warrant issued for him this week based on a video that he posted on his channel. Oh, y'all are following it. The chat has blown up with 1s. Everyone is following this. Hopefully there's no delay. I'm seeing delay on my end, and hopefully you're not. But all of the 1s. So I love that you guys are all following this. Let's talk about it. The case involves a popular YouTuber. I think he has let me just pull up his channel real quick. I think he has over 4 million subs. And I will do a fill-in. For those of you who are like, what are we talking about? I will absolutely fill it in. So I don't know why my computer is struggling. Something is struggling. So this is Boogie 2988. He has 4.2 million subscribers. I am not familiar with him or his content. I don't know what type of content he does, but there is another YouTuber that had beef with him on the internet. Look, internet beef should never come to your front door. This is never acceptable. So he was having internet beef with another YouTuber who ended up getting kicked off of the platform for reasons unknown to me, and I did not go digging into it. The other YouTuber's last name is Hassel, which I could not get over. So Frank Hassel got kicked off of YouTube. It seems from Phil DeFranco's coverage that he was blaming Boogie 2988 for that in some way. I'm just going to call him Boogie. Having to do the numbers is going to be hard for me. So Hassel was hassling and harassing Boogie from reports is what it seems was happening. Boogie puts up this video on YouTube talking about the fact that this guy had been threatening him on the internet. This is from September 28th, 2020. This guy had been threatening him on the internet, had then, I'm just going to mute this, had come to his house to the front door. Let's see. There is a Ring video footage of him at the front door of the house, yelling at him, calling him names, calling him out. Dude's wearing a GoPro on his head and had driven several states to get to this individual's residence. Now, when you have internet beef and you drive several states to get to somebody's house, I take it as a threat. Like, I take that as a threat. If you've threatened me online and then you drive multiple states to come to where I am physically, where I live, I feel like that is a threat. That is my personal opinion. That is a threat. Do not threaten me and show up at my house. And you know what? Even if you love me, don't show up at my house. Don't show up at my house. Don't show up at any of your creators' houses. When I was in law school, I worked in the stalking and threat assessment unit as a law clerk, a little bit. And it was the violation of your home when somebody comes to your home, even if it's because they think you are the greatest, is a terrifying thing for people. Do not come to somebody's home. It's different if you approach somebody in a restaurant and are like, oh my God, I love your content. You're in a public space. It's respectful. Coming to someone's home breaches that sanctity of your privacy. And it's like this absolute threat of, I can find you at any time. I know where you sleep. It's just the craziest thing. And it's the biggest breach. So comes to his house, calls him all kinds of horrible names, calls him out. Boogie had apparently said previously, and this goes on and on and on. He says he cut the rest of the video. In this, Boogie is very clear that he told him, if you come to my house, I am armed. He lives in Arkansas. If you come to my house, I am armed. You are not welcome at my house. You are essentially trespassing at my house, and I will ask you to leave. Boogie answered the door with a firearm, and here's where the criminal case comes in. He answered the door with a firearm and said, if you don't get off of my property, and this is, Phil DeFranco has the video on his show from yesterday. If you don't get off of my property, I'm going to fire a warning shot. You're not welcome here. You have to get off of my property. This is where the problem lies. Because up until opening the door, you are still in your home and somebody has not come into your home. Arkansas recently changed their stand your ground laws, but whether Arkansas will apply the new version of this or the old version of this, I don't know how their prosecutors will choose to do it. But you are within your home. Someone is not breaching your windows. They are not breaching your door. They are not in your home. So Arkansas's stand your ground law changed from you had a duty to reasonable retreat, which would mean staying the fuck inside your house or getting back inside your house. But it does not anymore. And that changed in March. So you do not now have a duty to retreat in Arkansas based on their new legislation from March 2021. So the fact that he did not call law enforcement, the fact that he did not wait it out till that dude left and opened the door to confront him is going to become a factual issue in this case because he's being charged with unlawful discharge of a weapon with reckless disregard, essentially. And the reckless disregard is that you are now firing a weapon in a residential area, bullets go up, have to come down, and you can actually cause harm or do damage to someone. So it's reckless disregard that if you fire a warning shot, it could hit a passing motorist. It could hit somebody on the other side of the street. It can be a problem. So he has now been charged with that discharge of the weapon, which in Arkansas is an aggravated assault for firing off the weapon because he opened the door. I think that this is going to be a very interesting case to see how it plays out in the criminal law, because if you go to trial on this as a prosecutor, juries are going to be like, but bro was harassing him, potentially stalking him, showed up to his house and was banging on his door. That's not okay. However, once you open the door with a weapon and then fire the weapon into the air, it is an unlawful discharge. It is with disregard in a residential area, and it's very ill-advised. If you are not legal advice, Emily opinion, if your life is under threat and you are lawfully able to fire to protect yourself, you need to be firing into something. You don't fire into the air to fire a warning shot. It's not the Wild West. We're not shooting one over the bow of a ship. And it's very dangerous to neighbors in the surrounding area. So will they find that he was immediately under threat when he chose to open the door? I don't know. But that fact scenario will be absolutely problematic for him. It is a misdemeanor case. So we will see what they decide to do with that, but he can face time in custody for it. We will be covering it. It is one of those things where it's like, I can understand why you felt threatened. I can understand why this was a problem. But when we get to the point that you've now opened the door and come out with a gun and fire a warning shot, now we have a problem. So now there is an issue, and now there's an issue. So this is reported by Newsweek. The fact that YouTuber stories are picked up by Newsweek still blows my mind. If you want to see the video that he posted on his channel, I will link it down below. It's still up on his channel from September 28th, and you can find it there. But this is going to be absolutely a problem for him. So aggravated assault, booked in Northwest Arkansas, and that's what that is on that case. And I think people were saying, I think it's a felony in the chat, so let me just double check it. What on the aggravated assault? I thought it was a misdemeanor aggravated assault, but I can look into it and double check that on the arrest reports, because I thought it was a misdemeanor aggravated assault, but I can double check and get back to y'all on that. With a $5,000 bond, I think it's a misdemeanor assault, but we can. So it will be interesting to see if Arkansas applies their current stand your ground law or their older stand your ground law, and we will see. We will see. So I will pull the laws. If you guys want me to deep dive into this more, I will pull the laws and talk about what he's facing. I think this is a difficult case because you can understand why firing a round into the air is a problem. In California, that would likely have just been an unlawful discharge, which is a lower level misdemeanor than an aggravated assault. But the aggravated assault's coming on this concept of reckless disregard for those in the area, or reckless and wanton disregard for human life and safety. So it will be interesting to see if that's reduced, if Arkansas has a reckless discharge law and they reduce that because they investigate and understand the circumstances, because there are circumstances here, but the circumstances here don't indicate that he could not stay in his home and call the police and say, I am being harassed and threatened. I need the police at my house stat. So I will follow it. We will see. It's one of those things where you're like, I get why he did it, but I also get why the law is the law. And that is a problem. And that is going to be a problem for him in this. Let's get to Triller versus the H3 podcast. I have numerous videos on this covering other aspects of the case and breaking down other aspects of the case. I think yesterday on H3, when I was blacking out, I talked about the fact that service can be 30 days. That federal court gives up to 90 days, but the court has a standing order that says, I want it ASAP, and there will be an order to show cause if you're not served within 90 days. And that means that the subpoena is issued, like you've filed the lawsuit, a summons is issued, and then the summons has to be served on the business, in this case, served on the agent for service of process for the H3 podcast, whatever their business entity is. So there's up to 90 days, but the judge has made it clear they very much want to see that more quickly. Now, we covered the rulings by Judge Anderson very much at the beginning of this suit, because Judge Anderson is the one who said, this fight lasted 2 minutes. There's no facts. These parties are improperly joined. Get the fuck out of my courtroom. Then when Triller refiled against the H3 podcast only, when they refiled, they said, hey, Judge Anderson, we want to come back to your court because it's going to be easier for us to litigate, because the Triller, well, it's Triller Fight Club 2 LLC, but the Triller lawsuit against Film Daily is already in Judge Anderson's court. They want those cases to be together, even though they're not joined. So they're separate, but they run parallel to aid with things like discovery and move things along more quickly. Judge Anderson's like, what we're not going to do is say that these are related. Go to your other court, deal with your other shit. I'm not doing it. So he declined the order to order the transfer. They asked, please take us back into your courtroom. And he said, I wish I could get rid of the Emily interpretation, sarcasm, and sass. I wish I could get rid of the case I already have. And I'm going to find a way, because I don't think you have jurisdiction. And I might kick you the fuck out on the other case too. So I'm not bringing this one in so I can kick you out on this. So, in the case number, the court ordered plaintiff to show cause why the separate alleged infringers named in the action were properly joined in a single action. Plaintiff had no well-pleaded facts. The court's not letting it go. The court's not letting it go. The standard for federal filing is well-pleaded facts. There aren't any facts, and so they can't be well-pleaded. That the defendants did anything other than operate independently. Whether this defendant infringed is a separate event. This is what I said. The fight in this case, the Jake Paul, Ben Askren fight, is not the event. The uploads or the alleged copyright infringement, the alleged redistribution, that is the thing. The fight airing's not the thing. It's these different uploads. And it looks like the H3 podcast talked about this like 5 days later. So it wasn't aired contemporaneous to the fight. So there may not be damages. And this is not about Ethan saying on Frenemies, like, yeah, I mean, I didn't pay for the fight. It's about the re-airing the fight. It's not about pirating the fight, unless they're saying you pirated it for the purposes of redistributing it. It's not about a personal watching of the fight. So whether this defendant, the H3 podcast, infringed is a separate event from the low number defendants' alleged infringement, does not call for a determination of the same facts, and will not require a duplication of labor, which are the standards for the court to bring them together. So he's like, no, another judge can hear this. Get out. I don't want to see your face. Reason for transfer is indicated by counsel, arise from the same or closely related transactions, happenings, or events. And the judge is like, no. Calls for a determination of same or substantially related or similar questions of law and fact. And the court's like, no, they're all different. For other reasons would entail substantial duplication of labor. I wanted to see him accept it just because I enjoyed his sass. But I also understand where the court is being consistent, saying, I said you weren't joined. I said these weren't related. What the fuck would make them related now? I've already said that they weren't. So that is really the breakdown of what's going on with Triller. I know you guys are saying in the chat that there is another filing from Triller in this suit, and I will show you what's filed, because what I saw today is the judge's filings, and just for transparency and clarity, I'll show you what the judge has filed in the case so we can talk about it, and then I can pull up Triller round 1 and just peek and see if there's anything, and we can do that together. So let's pull up the docket report. My internet is just not helping me out right now, and I don't know why. So This is the judge's standing order. We just went over the order to transfer. We didn't go over the 21-day summons, but this is essentially and I should have pulled up the one I downloaded, but whatever. This is the summons saying you've been served with a lawsuit. This is what will be served on the H3 podcast, their business entity. And then it has to have proof of service come back. And then there's 20 days to respond after service comes back. And there's up to 90 days to serve this. And the judge filed wrong one. The judge filed his standing order in this. And the standing order is the court's own rules. So the court's own rules say, I should have just pulled up the one I downloaded. Anyway, the court's own rules go through all of the ways that you operate in this case. So the court's dates, what the courts want to see, how they want to see things done. That's what the standing order says. Service of the complaint. Plaintiff shall promptly serve the complaint. Does not require the summons and complaint to be served for 90 days. This court expects service as soon as service can reasonably be accomplished. So get it served. Do not dawdle, do not delay, and do not fuck with my time. The court will require a show of good cause to extend service, presence of lead counsel, ex parte application. So this is all of hey, this is how these cases will operate. This is my timeline. These are the discovery cutoff dates, et cetera, et cetera. So nothing that's super relevant to our purposes yet, but it will be. And yes, this is filed on 28-line paper. See how nice the lines line up, which is fantastic. So that's what you will get in most courts. You will see the judge filing their standing orders in the case. So all parties have notice. In my house, these are the house rules. I expect you to abide by them. I'll take a quick peek at round 1 and see if there's anything new. I hadn't pulled that case up today because there is other stuff to get into, but we can take a quick look and see because, no harm done. That's why we do live streams. So we can look at the stuff that we want to look at. So the most recent thing filed, I had already pulled it up. The most recent thing filed is that the court terminated all these other defendants formally. So now we see it showing up on the record that these cases are all formally terminated off the record. It's like, you get out, you get out, you get out. And so it's removing all of the other defendants in a formal way, but we went over this filing already. I don't expect we will see anything because I don't think that Film Daily has been served yet. And until Film Daily gets served, nothing else is going to happen on that side of the lawsuit. I'm going to keep an eye on both of them because I imagine the attorneys will make the same arguments. I am very curious to see what Novian and Novian get up to in this lawsuit. Big oofs on this, big oofs. So the last thing I wanted to bring up, and I brought this up on Twitter before a third-party app exploit wiped my Twitter account, or not all of my Twitter account, part of my Twitter account, and then started spamming links to Ray-Ban sunglasses that were probably not links to Ray-Ban sunglasses, that were probably links to something else. If you see a Twitter account spamming links, don't click the link. Don't ever click the link. And spent my morning recovering that. But before I did that, I had pulled up, of course, we don't need my notes. No, we don't. We don't need I have notes always when I run my when I run my cases. That's true too. When I run my shows and they have my links. So these are my links. Hello, Emma, my love. And Bedazzled asked which third-party app. I'm not sure exactly which app. There are two, I suspect, because they were old and not updated, but I don't want to out somebody without having the back end done, and I'm looking into that. So let's pull this up. This is the last thing. Terrance Howard threatens to sue producers of the new film Triumph. This came up and I retweeted it. Saltz had posted this on his website. This is a Saltsy case. This is our last case for the evening. But apparently Howard was supposed to have a supporting role and is now on the poster, but He's saying that he never gave the release to use his likeness. So I like that they come out with the salty love. So it seems like TMZ. We've been talking about the Duggaries too much. It seems that TMZ is also a salty fan. Terrance Howard's hired some big legal guns to wrestle with producers of his new movie Triumph, claiming they didn't have his consent to use him in the film, which has already been released. And that's a problem. That's a really, really big fucking problem. TMZ obtained a cease and desist letter sent by Howard's legal team to employees at Cinemark, Digital Ignition Entertainment, Argonaut Entertainment Partners, and others, alleging the actor's name, image, and likeness have been used in connection with the film without his permission. According to the letter signed by attorney Michael Saltz, he got named. There you go, Saltzy. Howard's involvement with the movie, which co-stars R.J. Mitt of Breaking Bad, played a high school wrestler with cerebral palsy, was conditioned upon the satisfaction of material, monetary, and non-monetary promises made by the producers, which never happened. This was also on Saltz's Twitter. I think he put the press release up on his Twitter account, and that is what I had retweeted. Howard's attorneys claim these producers acknowledged as recently as April 15th that Howard's consent had not been obtained and Triumph could not come out until they got the signed release, but they released it on April 30th anyway. Yeah, that's not good at all. The letter goes on to threaten Argonaut with legal action if it continues involving Howard with distribution, advertising, promotion, and or exhibition of Triumph in any manner, which means, continuing to air it. Digital Ignition Entertainment tells us the producers made this film with a mission to help advance awareness of cerebral palsy and do our part to promote inclusion in film. We couldn't be more proud of our job, and our cast and crew did to highlight the remarkable accomplishments of the writer of the film, who has cerebral palsy, and the lead actor of the film, who is also diagnosed with cerebral palsy. We've reached out and they have not heard. So the image release is going to be an issue. The image release is going to be a huge issue. How they went ahead with this without an image release is unbelievable to me. But I wonder if they thought, because the film had such a solid purpose and mission, and because it is raising inclusion and diversity, I wonder if Emily's speculation, I wonder if they said, hey, if you go ahead and come out against this film, you're going to look like a dick. And we're just going to tell everyone that you're a dick. And we're going to try to pressure you to back down, because the purpose of the film is a genuinely really good purpose. However, I think trying to leverage reputational pressure when you actually don't have somebody's likeness release is not the way we do things. It's just not the proper way to do it. I don't know how they're using his image on the poster to promote this. They're using his name headlining to promote it. I don't know what they thought was going to happen, but they are going to end up with some pretty big damages just based on what they're required to do before you release a film. Like, these are basics, y'all. And if you don't have it, you can't release and distribute it. What are you doing? No. And now Salty's like, we've got you. We've got you. This will be fun because you continue to release it. And now we have damages. And I'm sure they will go after the gross of the film. They're going to be like, okay, cute. You didn't have our release, so you can go ahead. All the money you made from the film on the likeness, name, and image, that is ours. Thank you. Thank you for releasing it to us. Ours. I would just say, if you are doing a podcast with someone, if you are filming with someone, if someone's agreeing to come on your YouTube channel, have an agreement in writing somewhere that they've agreed to be on your channel, agreed for it to be recorded, and agreed for it to be released. So that you don't run into these problems, because these problems can happen on YouTube as well. So that is the end of the weekly roundup. That's the end of the weekly roundup. We had a lot of stories to round up. But I enjoyed talking about all of them. So if you haven't done the YouTubey things, go ahead and like the stream, subscribe to the channel, share it out if you want to share it and want people to come in and watch with you so you can talk about the stuff we talk about, because we're about to get into some housewives tea that's kind of Twitter related and kind of legal commentary related. And that's going to be very, very interesting. So thank you for the super sticker, Krista. I'm going to have a little bit more of my my delightful White Claw. And we're going to get into it. Thank you to everyone who's joined this evening as a member. Welcome to the channel. We do a lot of fun stuff for membership, and I'll tell you guys about that later. We have got so much Girardi stuff to talk about. Have you guys drop a what emoji are we going to use for Erika? I don't even know. Do we have a dollar bill? Is there a dollar bill emoji? Drop dollars. Drop dollars in the chat. The emoji. Drop a dollar bill emoji if you've been following along with the Girardi lawsuit closely. Yes, a diamond. Diva Views is smarter than I am. Yes, absolutely a diamond. Money or a diamond. Money or your life. Money or your life. No, money or a diamond in the chat. Shoes work. I like that y'all figured it out. I love that y'all figured it out. Perfect. We have so much Erika to talk about. Oh, so much to do. The diamonds are so good. Thank you. Thank you. You guys, these are perfect. All right. You've done the YouTube-y things. Let's get into it. I'm going to do the scantest of recaps because there is so much going on in this case. By way of a slight recap, Erika Girardi, stage name Erika Jane, is a Real Housewife on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. She is married to formerly famed California litigator Tom Girardi. He did all kinds of big cases, billion-dollar settlements, super bougie rich. They've got planes, they've got money, they've got cars. All of it seems like it was built on a house of cards because now Tom Girardi and his law firm are in two different bankruptcy, and there is a veritable fuck ton of litigation against Tom Girardi and his law firm. Clients that haven't been paid, and clients that haven't been paid means victims of plane crashes, toxic tort incidents, people who have gotten injured in boating accidents, people who have hired Tom as their lawyer, gone through litigation, won money judgments, which is a hard thing to do in the first place. And then Tom was like, let me hold that for you. I got you. And then didn't pay them. And now the money is gone. So the bankruptcy courts are trying to parse it out. Two bankruptcy courts. One, Tom Girardi's personal assets, him the dude. Two, Tom Girardi's law firm, Girardi Keese, the business. The business is trying to claw back monies that have been lent, trying to make sure that cases don't go walking out the door because they work on contingency. Contingency lawyers get paid after it's done. They front the money and get paid after it's done. So there's still cases out there. There are still clients that were Girardi clients who are waiting to have the case resolved, which just breaks my heart for people because getting to the point where you have to hire an attorney is scary enough. It's stressful enough. It's really annoying. Once you get to the point where you have to hire a lawyer, it's bad. Then you go through court with that lawyer, and then all of a sudden that lawyer has disappeared off the face of the planet, and you're having to deal with the bankruptcy court to figure out who can be your next lawyer because you can't just go hire somebody because the money that Tom Girardi spent on your case is an asset of the bankruptcy court. It's complex bankruptcy shit. What is going on with relation to Erika Girardi is that she is A, in the middle of divorcing Tom Girardi, and that's going to wait a hot minute. But B, both bankruptcy courts are trying to get back some of her assets. In the personal side of the bankruptcy, the side where they're selling the house and dealing with the cars, which were mostly leased, which kind of surprised me, but whatevs. Dealing with the personal side of the bankruptcy, they are trying to hire counsel, and that was just approved. We'll talk about that in a second. Hire counsel to sue Erika Girardi to recover assets. The bankruptcy court, the law firm Girardi Keese, also wants to hire counsel, special litigation counsel, to sue Erika to claw back any loans that the law firm made to her loan out company, EJ Creative, and what have you. So, two potential lawsuits going on for Erika. In the personal bankruptcy, the court just granted a motion. I think I forgot to do the swoopy thing when we got into this. So now that we're actually getting into the documents, we did the road so far and the roundup. Let's get into the latest legal tea with the Erika Girardi getting sued by the bankruptcy trustees. In bankruptcy court, the trustee can sue your ass for shit that they want back inside the bankruptcy court. So it all stays in bankruptcy, but they can sue you. The trustees in the personal bankruptcy against Tom Girardi as an individual sought to hire counsel. Axe, by the way, is being sued by the business trustee, which is very confusing to me because they've got issues over with regard to the law firm, which is very interesting. But they've been hired as litigation counsel against Erika Girardi. That was just approved May 12th. So I think we will see them beginning the process to sue Erika Girardi inside of the bankruptcy court. Why was Axe hired? Let's just get into it really quickly so that we can talk about what purpose ACTS, the law firm, was going to serve with regard to trying to claw back goods in the personal bankruptcy. Because Erika Girardi is saying most of the shit she has, it's not community property, so it doesn't go into the bankruptcy because it's her individual property. Need for legal counsel. Debtor is married to Erika Girardi, who is not a debtor in the bankruptcy. Trustee believes Erika is in possession of the debtor's bankruptcy estate or has transferred assets to third parties prior to the commencement of this bankruptcy case. However, the trustee has been informed by Erika that she does not have any community property in possession except for certain household items, and that she does have, and all that she does have were alleged gifts from the debtor, which she claims are her separate property. Getting into when is it a gift, when is it not a gift, is going to end up being a court determination based on value. It's going to be a situation. The trustee requires special counsel to seek recovery of estate assets. This is the shit that she owns. Rings, jewelry, clothes, art, all of it. They are going to try to seek to bring back. She is saying, the shit that you gave me is mine. In the world of marital property in California, there are some quirks to it that can make these things gifts or not gifts. It depends on what they were doing, what they were signing over, if they said it was a gift, how they said it was a gift, how it was purchased. There's a lot here. It's not just absolutely cut and dry with regard to what is and is not her marital property. So the trustee requires special counsel to seek recovery of the assets from Erika or third-party transfers of Erika. So now that the Axe law firm has been granted permission, because the bankruptcy judge is the boss up in this bitch. The bankruptcy judge is like, everything goes through me. You want to hire an attorney? Goes through me. You want to spend some money to deal with assets or clean out the office or get an accountant? It goes through me. Everything that's happening gets approved by the court. Everything. So I think we will see Axe initiating litigation against Erika to try to get back her assets, or coming to a stipulated and agreed to settlement saying, okay, we will give you these things. We will not give you these things. Can we all agree? Because we'd like to not go to trial. And that can happen too. But now that counsel is appointed, this was on May 12th, I'm sure counsel called Erika's counsel and was like, we need to have a chat about the property. Where's the Jaguar ring? We want to know, where is the Cartier? We would like it to come back to the court because there aren't a lot of assets here. The house, which is up for sale, and before I move on to the business side of this, we can pull up the house and take a look. Do you guys want to see the Zillow listing for the house? Do you want to see the pictures? I mean, we've seen it for sure, but do you want to see the pictures? just drop a house in the chat if you want to see the pictures. I'll go through them. So there's not going to be a lot left after the house because the house is already divided up. It's going to the Rui Gomez creditors who are owed like $11 million. And then there are some others that it will go to. So there's not going to be much left after the house is sold. It's being listed for $13 million. I see y'all in the chat. It's being listed for $13 million. Let's look at some pictures of the house. These are on Zillow. The address is publicly available in these filings. I'm not going to intentionally go to the main page. This is also in like the New York Post and stuff like that. So this is the Pasadena estate of Tom and Erika Girardi. Is this all a pool? Like what is this? I don't know. It kind of looks like a lightsaber to me. I don't know what's happening. Anyway, it's not mine to comment. It's his estate, but this is quite a substantial property in Pasadena, California. Goodness. I mean, it's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. But yeah. So $13 million. And we haven't gotten to see a ton of this house on Housewives, and I'm nosy. I'm nosy. It's a lot of wood. Like it's a lot of It's a lot of wood. So is it a cauldron? Is this where we summon spirits? I have questions about this choice. I am not a decorator. I'm just being shady. I have questions. Oh, so much wood. Like, what is this? What is this? I'm fascinated by what this is. I guarantee you it's really fucking expensive. I can't guarantee that. I imagine and suspect whatever it is like an 18th century something. Because it's got to be. These two, I would imagine. It's a lot of wood. It's a lot. This feels like, I don't know. It feels like an old school gentleman's club where you go and have a cigar and a drink and sit around and talk about your mistress. That's what it feels like to me. I'm not alleging that Tom has a mistress. I'm saying this is what it feels like. I mean, the area going out to the outside looks beautiful. Another sitting area, a dining room, I guess. It's very yellow. Is that still in the dining room? Does the dining room have chairs? Yes, it does. All right. You can retire to the fireplace. It's a vibe. I just don't know if you like the vibe. The kitchen, that's a lot of refrigerator. Those are massive refrigerators. But I guess in a house this size, if you're going to entertain, you have to have refrigerators that big. I'm surprised by the amount of cocks up here. Like this is like there's a lot of cock. We've got a lot of wood and a lot of cock going on in this house. And there's the demonetization tonight. I'm surprised. Is anyone else surprised by this? Who is surprised I am surprised by this. Just me? Just you? I'm surprised by this. I'm also surprised that they don't have like a $5,000 coffee maker. Like I'm very surprised. Where is our like massive bean grinding espresso maker? I'm surprised by how actually low key the coffee maker is. Coffee makers. I guess there are two of them. Is this part of the kitchen? Yep. So I would imagine that's probably where you would actually eat because look at that gorgeous view. I mean, we live for the view. I'm loving this view. It's gorgeous. Oh, there we are. I mean, are the bottles taken down because they're going to be sold in the bankruptcy too? Because there you go. Y'all, the wood. The wood. So much wood. That's the entryway again. What is happening? Is this where you take secret calls? What is happening? It feels like the nook at like the airport where you go and shut the door so you can make a call. I don't understand. But okay. Um Stairs. Let's keep going. Stairs. Church? Does she have a church? Is this her own church? I feel like you have a church. Yeah, I feel like it's a church. I feel like you have a house of worship inside of your home. What is in the floor? Wait a second. Who did they put in the floor? Wait, what the hell? Who's in the floor? Who? No. I have questions about who is in the floor. Who is in the floor? Questions. Yes, chapel. Thank you. It's a chapel. But who is in the floor? And this house, by the way, is 13 million, 4 bedrooms, 9 bathrooms, over 10,000 square feet. I still want to know who's in the floor. Who's in the floor? I'm going to have to go back to previous seasons of Beverly Hills and see if it's ever addressed because I want to know. All right, I've made this too big now. I mean, it's a thing for sure. But who's in the floor? That would scare the shit out of me. Just me. Is this bedroom? Is this a TV that just comes up out of the thing? Do you guys remember Girls Next Door with Hugh Hefner's bed that the girlfriends would be in? Like Girls Next Door was so weird, but I watched all of it. I feel like this is just the TV that pops out of the furniture. I like the little sitting nook though. It looks very cozy. I like the little desk. It would be nice to have a desk. Any lawyer out there is going to be like, oh my God, to be able to get up out of bed and just go sit down and do work would be glorious. I imagine there's TVs, a big TV hidden behind that. I've seen very few TVs. We have not really seen TVs. Not a lot of TVs. Oh, it's a salon. There's a salon. And I imagine this is part of the closet too. A hair washing sink, of course. Because why wouldn't you? Because you live in Pasadena and it's fuck far from everything. A very sassy tub. We're not hating the tub. And the his and hers closets, that's his. Is that the shower over there? Maybe. It's a lot of wood. Is this her closet? Yep. This is her closet. Wow. There's a TV. There we go. We found the TV room. The wallpaper's kind of fun. I kind of dig it. It feels, I don't know. It feels like an old Pasadena hotel to me. This room is kind of fun. I like it. It's quirky. And not that you're here for my opinion on interior design, because literally I don't even know how to do those things. But I like the windows. Look, this is gorgeous. This is a lot of space in Pasadena. How fucking old is this TV? I guess everyone's not me where I'm like, no, there's a new one. We could get a better one. Why don't we have a bigger one? If I had Girardi money, well, I guess Girardi's didn't even have Girardi money, but if I had pretend Girardi money, this is not the TV. This is not it. I have tech issues. I object to the tech. Old tech alert. The pool looks lovely though. The pool's kind of killing it for me. Yeah. This is lovely too. The outdoor space is gorgeous. I mean, you can't be mad at that outdoor space. And it's California. And for California, you don't get that many bugs. So you could hang out there all the time. This is lovely. Oh, a little pool house at the end. That's gorgeous. The yard might be worth it for people. Look, the amount of space is going to be worth it for people. And look, like a pellet barbecue and stuff. Do they have a Traeger? Is that what's going on out there? The outside is lovely. It's lovely. It looks like a hotel out there. You could probably make this place a little, literally like a bed and breakfast. There's so much grounds to it. Is that a grotto? Can you imagine? It's like, no, I'm sorry, my phone, I didn't hear you. I was in my grotto. My bad. I can't imagine. The grounds are gorgeous. It is. It's a grotto. Are we going to get pictures of the grotto? Damn it. Where are the pictures of the grotto? I wanted pictures. And the carriage house, I guess. The gate, of course it's gated. There we know I'm not interested in touring this home. No, there's no way. $13 million. We don't know her. I'm sorry. That's not happening. Hope you guys enjoyed the walk through the photos. Let's talk about what's going on in the I should have timestamped that. Let's talk about what's going on in the business bankruptcy. On the business side of the bankruptcy trustee filed a motion to hire litigation counsel a little bit later than was done in the personal bankruptcy. And they hired a motion to hire Ron Richards. Now, RR, because saying Ronald Richards over and over, while I appreciate the alliteration, I will like trip over my own tongue saying his name over and over and over. Ronald Richards has been keeping people up to date on this case over on Twitter with the documents. He's been attending the court hearings. What we learned from other filings in this case is he does represent some of the debtors in the personal side of the bankruptcy. So on the personal side of the bankruptcy, he represents some of the law firms that are owed money by Tom Girardi, according to their filings. But in the business side, the bankruptcy trustee said, hey, we'd like to go ahead and hire you so that you can go sue Erika Girardi. I did a whole podcast episode breaking down the document seeking to hire him for that purpose. Now, I was wondering if Erika Girardi's attorneys would object. And I wondered that in the episode of The Emily Show where I covered it. And sure enough, they absolutely did object in a 69-page document that I don't know why my computer doesn't want to pull up, but we're going to do that right now because we need to. I had it up earlier. I think I accidentally closed it when I was closing my other stuff, which is going to give away what we're talking about tonight for Court of Public Opinion at the end of the show. But while that's pulling up, it was very interesting to me that of all the attorneys in the world, and California is replete with lawyers, like there are plenty of lawyers. If there was ever a state with a veritable fuck ton of lawyers, it is, in fact, California. But Ron Richards, who's been commenting on the case, like color commentary, there are times I'm like, I could be shady. I don't mind being shady, but we've gone in. Like, honey, we have gone in on Erika Jayne on Twitter. It was interesting to me that was the choice by the bankruptcy trustee. I don't know how that came about. I don't know how those conversations happened. It's fascinating to me that they did. And why is this not pulling up? So this was, now we have it up. Thank the Lord we're professionals here, people. Everyone who's new, it doesn't always go this smoothly, but sometimes. So let's just pull it back up off of Pacer since it's not pulling up on the other side. Fun. So this is a 33-page document with regards to Richards being appointed, or the bankruptcy trustee seeking to have him appointed as the litigation counsel in this case. So we're going to make this bigger and we're going to go through it together and see what they're saying. No, we're not going through all 69 pages. Yes, it's 69 pages. Yes, I'm a child. And I was like, hey. Let's talk about the introduction. Erika Girardi is the current but estranged spouse of Tom Girardi. Mr. Girardi is a debtor in related case, the Girardi case. He is also a principal of Girardi Keese, the debtor. So this is in the law firm bankruptcy, GK. In this case, the GK case, Eliza D. Miller is the Chapter 7 bankruptcy trustee. Erika submits this opposition to the application filed on April 26th by the trustee for authority to employ Ron Richards and Associates, APC, the Richards firm, as special litigation counsel. Ronald N. Richards is the principal of the Richards firm. As described in the application, the trustee contends that Erika may have received avoidable transfers from the debtor. Application 20. This is where it is. Although not a single potentially avoidable transfer is identified, and they didn't identify them. It's interesting because on Twitter a while ago, there's been speculation about whether there was a $20 million loan to Erika Jayne's business, EJ Creative, because in one of the many lawsuits where Tom Girardi and his firm are being sued, one of the firms that's suing him said, we believe there's this $20 million loan out there, and they just put it out into the universe. But on Twitter, Ron Richards is like, we have found no evidence that this loan exists, but is now seeking to be hired to go find loans from the law firm to Erika or to her companies to sue her and bring that money back into the estate to redistribute it to the various debtors, which include past clients of Tom Girardi. So the purpose here is not the problem. I am cool with if the law firm gave Erika money that it shouldn't have given her, pay the money back so it can go to the clients. I have no problem with that. The quirk is whether Richards can be the attorney to do that. So the trustee seeks authority to employ the Richards firm on a contingency fee basis. We've talked about that. After the money comes back in, then you get paid. We're not paying you hourly or on a retainer. For the purpose of investigating and recovering the alleged transfers to Erika. Erika understands that such investigation must take place as part of trustees' duties. So they're saying, yeah, we get it. We get that you need to go find the money. Get it. She is also aware that Jason Rund, the trustee in the Girardi case, has sought to employ Axe, which they have employed, as special litigation counsel for the same purpose. Significantly, Erika did not object to the employment of Axe. What this indicates to me is that this thing I speculated about earlier, Axe is going to get hired, and then Axe and her attorneys are going to start talking to try to come to some kind of a resolution. This indicates to me that they're like, yes, this is part of your duty. We're going to see if we can work together to turn over what you think we owe and fight on the things we don't think we owe. Here, however, Erika objects to the employment of the Richards firm on the grounds that the firm has actual conflicts of interest, which disqualify it from acting as special counsel to the trustee. This was a question I raised on the podcast, but they bring up facts that I was not aware of at that time because they were not disclosed in that application. In law, conflicts are a problem. We talked about it in the Toddy Westbrook case, whether there was a conflict created with a witness in that case, potentially with one of the attorneys, and then that would make a larger conflict. Conflicts of interest are a big problem. Your attorney has to have your best interest in mind. But if they have your best interest, they can't also have this other person's best interest, and two people or two entities can conflict. That is a very, very basic and simple explanation of conflict, but I think it works for our purposes. First, the Richards firm represents and continues to represent plaintiffs in the competing Sheldon litigation defined below, asserting the very same alleged fraudulent transfer claims against Erika that he now seeks to prosecute on behalf of the trustee. Oof. And which belong exclusively to the bankruptcy estate. Double oof. Not only does the continued assertion of these alleged claims violate the automatic stay by seeking a recovery on the claims that belong to the bankruptcy estate, it compromises any advice the Richards firm may render to the trustee with respect thereto. That is a problem. I don't know if the bankruptcy court's going to dig that, but what they're saying is that Richards has another client. This is what they're alleging. Richards has another client that is going after Erika for the same money that the bankruptcy court needs to get back to pay the debtors. And those two things are in conflict. Now, if there is another case that involves trying to go after Erika for funds, they're saying that is stayed by the bankruptcy court, and the bankruptcy court comes first, not this other case. But there's no way you can tell the bankruptcy, yeah, go ahead and go after this money when you have another client already going after the same pot of money. How do you divvy that up? That's where they're saying there's an actual conflict. Second, the plaintiffs in the Sheldon litigation, two law firms assert that they have claims against the estate based on purported oral fee splitting agreements with debtor. In California, oral fee splitting agreements are not enforceable. So now the shade is, yeah, and you can't enforce the monies that you're trying to enforce on that other case, but you represent them. As a result, at some point, the trustee will have to take a position on these claims. The trustee will have to say those claims are BS and they can't be paid, is what they're alluding to. Her fiduciary duties will require her to object to them. So she's going to have to object on one hand to the attorney that she hired. Sweet. If she fails to object or compromises these patently objectionable claims, such negotiation with her own counsel gives rise at a minimum to an appearance of impropriety and undermines the bankruptcy code's fundamental underpinnings of transparency and independence of the bankruptcy trustee. The bankruptcy trustee is supposed to be like, look, my job is to get the money back into the estate and divvy it up. That's all I'm here for. I'm not taking sides. I'm just moving the pieces on the board. Not only does this make the trustee actually adverse to these purported claimants, the Richards firm is conflicted as to any confidential information it has or may acquire from one or either of these proposed clients, right? Because you can't section off your brain and be like, oh, I learned this one thing from this client, but I can't know this thing for this client, which as we get into, I know you guys are seeing that the story regarding KKW Beauty and Kylie Cosmetics is coming down. This is part of the argument there, is that you have knowledge that can't be given to this other business entity. And that's what's going on in this. You can't fracture off that knowledge. Finally, aside from his actual conflicts of interest, get ready. Here comes the shade. Finally, aside from his actual conflicts of interest, it's clear that Mr. Richards' motivations include promoting himself with tabloid-style publicity on social media rather than maintaining the decorum appropriate to litigants before the bankruptcy court. Since December 4th, 2020, Mr. Richards has made at least 290 social media posts about this case and or Erika. Copies of certain of these posts are attached hereto as Exhibit C, which will be fun for us to go through. For example, on April 12th, 2021, Richards tweeted, "Your first look at the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills Season 11, a nice preview of all the impeachable statements Erika Jayne will make, reflecting an apparent bias and prejudgment of Erika and the issues." Richards has also commented on Erika's marital residence, her current residence, posted pictures of Girardi alongside Bernie Madoff and Pete Rose, posted pictures and commentary about an alleged burglary at the Girardi's marital residence, and repeatedly ended his tweets with the hashtag Girardi fraud. See Exhibit C. While this conduct may be appropriate for social media influencers, hi, is that what we do here? I think so. Legal commentary. It is not appropriate for a lawyer representing a party in a bankruptcy case, and it is particularly unseemly for counsel to a trustee. This is them saying, what we're not going to do is give salacious commentary on the case and then go ahead and become a litigant in the case. But they're not hanging their hat on Twitter. Twitter is not the main issue here. It is giving context to the court to kind of push, I think, to push the court over the edge to look, there's a conflict here, and then but wait, there's more, because the actual conflict is the bigger problem in this, not Twitter. Twitter is a secondary problem to the larger problem. Statement of facts. Don't we love her? We love Triller. This is a federal pleading. See, they introduced it and told us what was going to happen. They gave us the story. They a little bit of tea, a little bit of background, and then there are going to be facts. We love facts. Facts. A little bit of shade and facts. The Richards firm's disclosures, and I went through this on the episode where I broke down the application. The application's disclosure regarding the firm's disinterestedness, we don't have any conflicts here, it's all good, consists of the following. We've read this already. Blah, blah, we don't have any conflict. The pending Sheldon litigation, attached hereto as Exhibit A. And if you want me to go through that litigation, let me know in the comments or the chat, because we're not going to go through that other litigation tonight. What we're not going to do is 2 different lawsuits this evening, but we can do that if you are interested. Attached hereto as Exhibit A is a copy of the first amended complaint in the Sheldon litigation, which is the basis of the above quoted disclosure. Among other things, Sheldon FAC added Erika EJ Global LLC, and Girardi Financial as defendants. Although the Richards firm is not listed on the caption of the Sheldon FAC, on January 29th, 21, the firm filed a notice of association of counsel in the case, meaning they said, hey, we're here too. We're part of this case. The Sheldon litigation was removed from Los Angeles court to this court on March 5th. What that means is that it was brought under the bankruptcy umbrella. Remember, everything gets pulled into bankruptcy and gets dealt with in the bankruptcy. The Richards firm failed to disclose at least 2 conflicts of interest. As shown by the Sheldon FAC and discussed below, the Richards firm disinterestedness disclosure, that's a lot of S's, in the application omits at least 2 critical details regarding the firm's representation, which make the Richards firm actually adverse to trustee, meaning Richards and the trustee are on opposite sides of a money thing in the bankruptcy court, which means Richards can't then work for the trustee on this thing because they have different interests on the same amount of money. And that is problematic as hell. These are the 2 alleged conflicts. 1, the causes of action in that litigation, which the Richards firms continues to prosecute, include the very same alleged fraudulent transfer type claims against Erika that belong exclusively to GK and the estate. And 2, the plaintiffs' 2 law firms hold objectionable claims against the GK estate for oral fee splitting agreements, meaning they were counsel working with Girardi Keese on a case, and Girardi Keese was like, yo, I got you. I'm going to pay you this much. When we get this case, I need your help, and we will just split the fees and it won't be written. California is like, no, man, put that shit in writing. So the bankruptcy trustee is going to have to say, we're not paying this because it wasn't done properly, and that puts them at odds with Ron Richards. Because the Richards firm has actual conflicts of interest with the trustee, the application must be denied, which will be very interesting to see what the court does, because actual conflict, I don't know if that will be waivable, meaning the bankruptcy trustee will be like, no, it's cool. Because I don't know how you can say, no, it's cool. And I don't know how the other client could say, no, it's cool when they're fighting over the same money. Section 327E permits the employment of counsel by a trustee. You can do this, but they does not represent or hold any interest adverse to the debtor. And then they define adverse interest. It means that you are literally adversarial parties. And then they go through and break down the law of why this is a problem. The claims of the plaintiff in the Sheldon FAC are actually adverse, meaning it's not just a perception. We're actually fighting over the same shit, and you can't argue both things. The trustee is adverse to the assertion of claims based on the fee splitting. Again, as they said in the introduction, they're now just laying out the law for it, and really very easily written, because it's like in the introduction, these are our arguments. Then these are the facts that support the arguments, actual IRAC format. Then here's the law, and here in each heading is a summary of why it doesn't work. It's very clean and easy to read. This is for example, their summary. Here, the Richards firm cannot simultaneously represent the trustee and the plaintiffs in the Sheldon litigation in investigating and prosecuting purported avoidance claims against Erika. The claims of his existing clients to the proceeds of any potential recoveries against Erika through the Sheldon litigation are adverse to the trustee. We all want the same money. Adverse to the trustee's assertion of exclusive rights to pursue such potential recoveries, meaning the trustee is going to say, check yourself before you wreck yourself. That money's ours. You can't bring those claims here. The plaintiffs cannot separately collect on these alleged claims, as doing so would deprive the estate of the asset. So it's very clean. Here's the issue in our heading. Here's the law. Here's why we're saying it's a problem. This gets into the California fee splitting agreements. They must be written. If the court grants the application, it should issue a gag order. If for some reason you deny us, then we need a kindly shut the fuck up order here. If Richards is able to overcome his direct conflict, meaning if this can be waived in some way, or if the other claims are withdrawn or something like that, then Erika hereby requests this court to restrict Richards from making any further extrajudicial comments on these proceedings. This is necessary to ensure the fairness of the judicial process and to ensure that Richard complies with his ethical obligations under the California Rules of Professional Conduct. 3.6, I broke this down in the podcast too. A lawyer who is participating or who has participated in the investigation of a matter shall not make an extrajudicial statement that the lawyer knows or reasonably should know will, one, be disseminated by means of public communication like Twitter, and two, have a substantial likelihood of materially prejudicing an adjudicative proceeding in the matter. And then are the statements prejudicial? But you never want to really get to the point where you have to argue about the statements when it's avoidable. There are limited exceptions to this rule, namely that the lawyer may state basic facts. I broke all this down in the other episode. They also can seek evidence, which we've seen in other cases. The exceptions do not excuse Richard's historical conduct, which goes far beyond those exceptions and should be stopped if his employment by the trustee is granted. Tom Girardi is a longtime Los Angeles trial lawyer who is recently accused in multiple forms of having misappropriated client settlements. And to have otherwise violated his ethical legal obligations. That's putting it mildly. The state bar put it much more directly. Mr. Girardi's well-known national profile within the legal community, coupled with Erika's status as a member of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, has subjected this particular matter to extensive amount of publicity. Yep, hi, we're part of the extensive amount of publicity. While in many regards, the publicity cannot be avoided given the circumstances, right? Because bankruptcies open and apparent, and all of the filings are publicly available. While in many regards the publicity cannot be avoided given the circumstances, the attorneys involved in this bankruptcy and other related litigation should not be permitted to further expose this matter to public scrutiny beyond the very narrow exceptions of the rules. Mr. Richards has at least 13,000 followers on Twitter. According to his Twitter profile, he is a former paid legal analyst for NBC News. He regularly posts YouTube videos and comments to the press in this case. Does Richards have a YouTube channel that I'm not aware of? Or are they talking about him being on others' YouTube channel? I didn't know that. I didn't know he had a YouTube. I didn't know he was doing the YouTubey things. Unaware. I know that he's given interviews to other channels. Since December of 2020, Richards has made over 290 comments. Does that seem like a lot? I mean, because he does cover the hearings, and those are in multiple successions of tweets of this is what's going on in hearings. Does 290 seem like a lot to you in the chat? Let me know. Is 290 a lot? Because we've seen cases where there's a lot. We've seen cases with 80 videos. We've seen cases with tweets. Is 290 a lot to y'all? What do you think? Richards has made over 290 comments, posted dozens of pictures via Twitter on a near daily basis about Mr. Girardi and Erika. A sampling of those tweets is attached. Oh, and we will get there. On April 12th, we already read that in the above. We talked about the Girardi fraud above. This statement alone reflects Mr. Richards' bias and prejudgment of Erika. Richards regularly provides his own opinion and interpretation, right? Commentary of this litigation and Erika's participation herein. The problem is trying to cross over between commentary and then becoming a litigant is where the problem is. The commentary itself is not a problem. The representation itself wouldn't be a problem. The two, I don't know if can coexist. This conduct is both unbecoming of a lawyer that goes far beyond the limited exceptions of Rule 3.6. Well, yeah, if they're part of the litigation, then yes. A lawyer for a bankruptcy trustee is held to a higher standard than a social media commentator. I mean, fair, which I regularly say, I'm not a lawyer in this case. I'm a commentator. We can do what we want on the YouTube's commentating on a case. For the reasons set forth above, the court must deny the application. I think that Twitter is giving context to the court, but the actual conflict becomes the kicker here. So declaration of Peter J. Maston. I'm a partner with the firm since no later than March 12th and continuing through April 24th. Richard has emailed me requesting acceptance of service of a summons and complaint against Erika in the Sheldon litigation. Oh, so we know he's involved because he keeps telling us he's involved. Attached A is that complaint. B is the notice of association or counsel. C is the tweets. All right, let's take a look at the exhibits And if you're a new law nerd, we call them receipts. Legally, they're called exhibits. In the law nerd world, they are receipts. So let's go into the receipts. The Association of Counsel, lawsuit. We'll cover the lawsuit another time if you guys are interested in this associated case. Notice of Association of Counsel. There's the notice of associate. Still with the P.O. box. There are little things sometimes that bug me and I try to let them go and I can't. The P.O. box is one of them. 45-line paper is another one. So notice of Association of Counsel with his business address. Should we go through the Twitter? Let's look at the printout of the Twitter. Because that's where my historical Twitter lives, because half of my Twitter is printed out in exhibits to a lawsuit too. So at least I can go back and look at what was done because it's printed out. Oh, fantastic. Let's make this a little bit smaller so we can see it. So Twitter, when was this downloaded? When's this last printed? Because this was filed May 10th. Do we have a date on these tweets? Let's see. This is from 3/21. I don't know what date this was, but he's clearly not followed by anyone they're following. This just in with the Michael Aventi. So this will be able to tag what date this was printed out. It was probably around like close in time to the 10th. So breaking, finally, Erika Girardi appears in the bankruptcy case through counsel to object to the sale of the house without giving her with the estate $600,000 in exemptions. This is huge news. Now she is subject to the court's jurisdiction and discovery. We talked about that filing on this channel as well. So that's what it is. Words. This is incredible that her first words legally since all this started is, I want my $600K exemption carved out of any motion. The house is not in her name. This will throw the settlement into a contested proceeding for sure. EG is claiming a marital interest in the home. The motion complains the divorce is not finished. Yes. And then photos. And then one famous with investors and the other with clients, also close in age. The shade. So now they are just going through really literally all of the Twitter. Yes, we will be transcribing every word. The show does not provide immunity to its talent. Andy Cohen says Erika Girardi will talk about the divorce from estranged husband Tom on Real Housewife of Beverly Hills. Can you imagine it's your job to transcribe or to record and transcribe the Real Housewives? I want to get paid to watch Real Housewives. Wait a sec. I talk about it on this channel. Technically, it's work. Justin Girardi's son-in-law, David Lira, married to his daughter, Jacqueline Lira, FKA Girardi, has filed a claim against Girardi and Keese for reimbursement of his legal fees. We're not going to read through his entire Twitter. On and on and on and on. So when I did the breakdown of this, I went through Rule 3.6 pretty extensively and talked about where I saw the boundaries of this, because none of this commentary, first of all, most of this is given his take on public filings. And then second, he wasn't a litigant in this yet, which is why I said yes, I know that Erika Girardi's attorneys think there are boundaries, but with just the Twitter alone, he wasn't a litigant in this yet. So I had some questions about whether this would be enough to bounce him. The real thing in this is the actual conflict with the other case. The court's not going to decide it based on hashtag Girardi fraud. That's giving context to the court to hopefully boost it, I think, over the edge. The actual conflict is like the real actual legal basis for there potentially being a problem. So these are tweets I talked about in the podcast too, when I went through, how do these line up with 3.6? And you guys can go back on this cover. But Erika's side is like, no fucking way. We're not good with this at all. A lot of this though is commenting on documents, not really giving much else. The Girardi fraud becomes the commentary here, but it's like, this is what this document says. This is what this document says. So him not being a litigant yet, they're going to say, well, if he becomes a litigant, then this is a past statement by a litigant. So I can see it. I can see why they're upset. I mean, if I'm Erika's attorneys, I'm absolutely objecting. But if it was this alone, I think it would be a very close call. With it not being this alone, I think it becomes harder for him to be employed because of the actual conflict. So the tweets don't offend for me. And I said that in my podcast too. They clearly offend Erika's counsel. It's like, no, these don't fall within the exception. I'm like, but, but that actual conflict is where it's going to be. I think it's funny that these are the promoted tweets. Whoever's taking screenshots, Better Homes and Gardens is coming up as the promoted tweets. I don't know why I think that's funny, but I think that's funny. But they said that he was doing tabloid commentary on this, and they're salty about it. So we will see. I love the breakdown. I love the breakdown of the trailer, the legal commentary breakdown of the trailer. I did it too. Because it was really interesting. So the home is on the market now. I don't think it hit April. I think it just hit the market not that long ago. But yeah, this is this is Twitter. This is Twitter in a lawsuit again. All of the Twitter. It keeps going. And then the service notice. This is the list of service. That's how many attorneys are involved. That's the list of attorneys that need to get served with notice of these things. Oof. So that is why Erika's attorneys are like, no, ma'am. What we're not going to do is have Ron Richards, who's been tweeting about her since December and 290 tweets, come in here and now be litigating against her. Twitter is the color commentary. Like I said, the actual conflict becomes the actual problem that the court's going to have to parse. We'll see if he responds, or we will see if the court hears this, or we will see if the court just has a hearing on it and goes through it. So that's what it is. That's the end. Let's get to questions. We've been talking for a long time. Please put question in front of your questions so we can get to them and I can see them. And yes, put it in. Marvelous Mel said, such complex litigation. These bankruptcy proceedings are very, very complex. There are a lot of moving parts because the law firm has other lawyers who need to be paid, clients who need to be facilitated, money that needs to be tracked down, bookkeeping and accounting that needs to be done. And the personal side has the house that needs to be sold, has liens on things, has trying to pull back all of the money on other stuff. It's a lot of work for these bankruptcy trustees. This is a lot of work for the bankruptcy trustees. Question, do they have to pay capital gains on the house? They're going to have to pay whatever taxes and fees. Like nothing changes because it's being sold in bankruptcy. So however much the house has increased in value between the time it was purchased and the sale, all of those fees and taxes will have to be paid before any money gets divided up per the agreement with the debtors who have liens on the house. So, question, if you have a chapel in your house, if that means you don't have to pay taxes on that portion. Oh, Marissa, that's a very good question. I don't know the answer to that question, but I'm fascinated if they're like, it's exempt. We're the Church of Girardi. That's a great question. I don't know if they would actually have done that or if it's stylistic, but kind of like a home office exemption, but for religious purposes. I don't know, but I think it's fascinating. Could Erika's doxing of a federal judge factor into any of this? Probably not. I never say never because you never know how things might change and it might be relevant. But if that's an issue, it would need to be taken up on the doxing. It doesn't really relate to whether her company got paid by the law firm or whether the Cartier Jaguar ring is an asset that's a marital asset or if it's a gift that's separate property. It's just not relevant. Melissa B, I don't know how long it will take. He will have time to file it. I don't know if he will file it. The court could just issue a hearing on it and they could do it verbally. We'll see. Again, Twitter not being the big thing, because with Twitter, it'd be like, look, this is commentary given before I became a litigant. I don't think it falls under 3.6. The judge may disagree and be like, I don't want this smoke at all. It's going to be a judge decision of this is too close to the line. I don't want it. But the actual conflict of adverse parties is really going to be a problematic part to all of this. I wasn't aware that all existed, and that's a very interesting quirk to it. Question, do you think the Girardi cases will change how the practice of law happens in California? I don't know yet. I mean, I don't know how this went on for so long, first of all. So I don't know what they can change to make it better because I haven't really thought about it. But it is a great question that I will think of and think on. I would need some more thought on that. Is the dementia of it all still in play? Yes. Have there been other documents to support that diagnosis? I have not looked because that's being run in the probate court and I have not pulled those up. The next time we do a dive into all the things that are not Erika getting sued, I'll pull it up. But for now, he's in a conservatorship. So there's not much that can be done. Question, do you think Richards is really clueless about the fact that this is unethical? I don't think the tweets are necessarily the problem. I really some of the tweets, I'm like, I could see why they're mad. But then you also look at the exceptions in 3.6 and you're like, I can see where you could call it. So do I want to call it unethical? No, I don't. But if he was tweeting the way he was tweeting while he was representing someone, then it becomes a big problem because it's not seeking evidence. It's not stating basic facts. It's really putting out quite a lot of pre-litigation statements that can prejudice the proceedings. So if he was a litigant, then it would become problematic. I don't understand. Maybe we will see him talk about why he wants to be a part of this, but if he's already working with the other counsel or the other law firm going after these same funds, I don't understand why the answer would be yes to working then with the bankruptcy trustee. The actual conflict seems like a bigger problem to me and is a bigger problem to me, but we'll see what the court says. I will be surprised if the court allows it. I will be less surprised if the court's like, we don't want this smoke. There are lots of lawyers who can do this. Go find one of them. I see the court erring on the side of let's just not do this, but we'll see. Question, have you seen the Mayweather-Logan Paul lawsuit? Yes, I retweeted it. No, I have not pulled the documents on it. I just saw it get reported on before we streamed on TMZ. Question, can the guy from Arkansas lose his right to bear arms? If he is convicted of an assault with a firearm, then yes, the right to actually have firearms can be taken away if there's a conviction. So yes, that can happen. The proof of service is insane. Yep. Question, don't you remember the housewives show the chapel on Erika's house tour? Tammy, I don't remember. I don't remember. I'm going to have to go back and look because I don't remember. Absolutely. Question, can we have a monthly Natalie, Nate, Emily live stream? I will ask them. It was really fun. I loved it too. So I will absolutely ask them about it. All the happy squirrels, I have playlists for all of these cases, and in the live streams, they are timestamped. So if you go to like the Girardi playlist, you can look at the oldest video and then kind of work your way to the newer videos. And where I talk about the case is timestamped in each of them. I will let the internet fill you in on that. Mice is nice. Because yeah. Lachelle, thank you. You can't have the house deduction, I'm assuming, for religious purposes in the US. That's good to know. I am not a real estate expert by any means. Question, if EJ is found to be owing the firm 20 mil, could they attach her TLC earnings to recover the money? It depends on how TLC is paid. So if So yes, I think that they could do that. I think she's probably paid by TLC through EJ Creative. EJ Creative would need to pay this. So could EJ Creative then file bankruptcy? Perhaps, but if there's still income coming in. So yes, potentially. When Ron Richard posted the phone call from a victim without permission, I had specific feelings about it. I also think it's a copyright issue. I don't know how he obtained it, so I can't really comment on whether it's a bigger problem because I don't know how it was obtained. But not having permission to post it is a copyright violation because you don't have the rights to post something that is not yours, that is copyrighted, especially when you don't have permission. And I don't know if that would count as fair use. But I personally feel that the Girardi clients have been through enough. And so they should control their narratives on how they want to share things. Also, if they are still in pending litigation, which that particular client is still in pending litigation, doing anything that could interrupt that pending litigation for them, I do not like. I do not like it at all because they've already been through enough is my personal opinion on that. Question, she probably needs the money, but why would she go on the show when it could be used against her? She probably signed the contract before any of this went down to go on the show. And yes, she is going to need the money. Erika's going to have to make a living of her own, and she's going to have to make she's going to have to make a living on her own, completely separate from Tom going forward, and potentially recover from things that Tom has done, much like we saw Teresa Giudice saying in the divorce she took the house because she paid off all the restitution owed by her husband, Joe, or ex-husband, Joe. Erika is going to have to work to overcome the financial part of this. AB, this is a great question. If a gag order is issued, would Bravo have to remove previously recorded content construed to be even tangentially related? No, it would probably extend to the attorneys and things going forward from the time it was issued. Though the court could say, Bravo, pull it. I don't know if they would. And I don't know if that's the best interest of the court because she's a party opponent. I don't know if it's the best interest of the court to not see that. So question, money can't buy you class. Question, good question. Question, wasn't the house supposed to be worth 17 million? Marilyn, you have a very good memory. Is the fact that this is a bankruptcy the reason it's going for 13? The 17 million number is coming from a previous filing, a statement of financials by the bankruptcy trustee where they estimated the house at 17 million. A lot of things can affect that price. So after they got it in, it seems that was before they hired the realtor. So the realtor could come in and be like, that's high. I thought it was high at the time. I think a lot of people thought 17 was high at the time. But once you get a look at the house, how this house is structurally, what the market is for a house that large, the goal of the bankruptcy court is to get this house sold, not to continue paying the mortgage and sitting on it. So there's a lot of strategy that goes into it. So I don't know where the $17 million number comes from. And I don't still have Zillow. Let me pull up Zillow and see what the Z-Summit is. Not that that's like a legally binding document in any way and is not necessarily accurate, but I'm just curious what it says. Let's see. The Zillow estimated market value on the home is $12,499,652. So $12,499,652. That is their estimate. And that estimate substantially increased over the summer. So it looks like that 13 million is kind of around what you would expect to see, according to Zillow. How accurate Zillow is, I do not know. Question, if you had the option, would you have a tiny confession booth in your house? No. No, I would not. I love this. Did you see Erika Jane at the MTV Awards? There were MTV Awards. MTV still has awards. I don't watch award shows, so no. Can we do a quick Jen Shaw touch base? She's on Cameo now for like $100, probably to pay legal fees. It would have had to have been approved by the probation or the pretrial litigation pretrial services department because it's technically employment, and that will probably go to pay her lawyers. I did a reel and I think maybe a TikTok about it, but that's all that's happened in that case. There's still time before they have to file any motions. Motions should be filed in the next few weeks, and if there are any motions, we would see it. So yeah, nothing's really going on in the case except that she's now on Cameo, probably to pay for legal fees. My presumption. Question: Is it going to be considered a Ponzi scheme since technically a service was given? As far as I'm concerned, MLMs exist because services are provided, but they are Ponzi schemes too at the core. Caffeine Queen, it's a great question. Is it is it criminally a Ponzi scheme? I haven't contemplated it too much. Is it structured like a Ponzi scheme where they are using money coming in from new litigation settlements to pay back debts? That's the analogy. But yes, there were services given and MLMs do sell products, but the core structure is the same. I think it teeters. A lot of the media calls it a Ponzi scheme just because then people understand you're paying the money up and you're bringing new clients in so that you're paying out the back debts. So that structure is what it is. White Collar Guy reiterates that there is no home chapel exemption in most states, even if there is. Even then, it's no, unless it's consecrated and you are clergy. It's in my clergy taxes manual. There's a clergy taxes manual? White Collar Guy, that's fascinating. And thank you for bringing your knowledge to the stream. Also, stream, welcome, Foot Soldier. Stream, we've been at almost 3,000 all night. Make sure you take a moment to like the stream and subscribe. We do mostly long form live streaming content. I do case briefs. I also sometimes do YouTube shorts just to give you the hot takes when things go down quickly, because that's the quickest way to sit down for a minute and be like, this. And soon we're going to get into court of public opinion. Would not Girardi's professional liability insurance cover any losses on the money? I don't believe he had professional liability insurance in California. It's not required if you disclose to your clients that you don't have it over a certain amount. And so I don't know if he had liability insurance. I have not seen anything to indicate that he did. And I don't remember, I've had a White Claw. I don't remember which filing it was in that it alluded to the fact that he did not, but I don't think there is a liability. And even if there is, I don't know if it covers the tens of millions of dollars that we're talking about. So it's a great question, but no. All right. My chat jumped. I'm trying to catch up to things. And, did Avaloma, I think I got that right, but maybe not. Did the agents ask Josh Duggar if he knew why they were there, or was his correct guess an excited utterance? That is a very legally specific question. Hold on, I'm going to pull up my notes because I made notes of, let's see what I said. Josh Duggar detention hearing. Let me look. I believe they asked him, but I'm going to refresh my recollection and see. Let's see. We're going to control F ourselves. They said it might have been an excited utterance, because what I have in my notes is that Duggar was interviewed. He consented to be interviewed and asked, "What is this about? Has someone been downloading CP?" Which actually does change our conversation from last night. And I probably should have pulled my notes before we had that conversation, because that absolutely changes the nature. Did the officers say it before? And again, these are just from my notes, not from, again, hearing it again. But if he just said, "What is this about? Is this?" It's a completely different situation than if they asked, "Do you know I'm here?" There's nuance to that. So yes, it might have well been based on he consented to be interviewed and asked, the words they used were asked, "What is this about? Has somebody been downloading CP?" In which case that statement won't get thrown out, because that would be literally him offering the information before he's asked anything. So thank you for the question and giving me the opportunity to clarify that, because that's what he said. My note on that was, they believe he knew what they were looking for before they even said anything. So that was my contemporaneous perception of listening to it. Lauren says Erika and Tom signed the contract for Bravo without looking at it. She said that within her book. Interesting. I'm going to have to go back and listen. I have not listened to her book. I will have to listen to her book. That's very interesting. I wonder why. I wonder if he just trusted the contracts, and I wonder why. I read everything. What are your thoughts on Dina Manzo's ex-husband being federal? What? I didn't know that. I have no thoughts. My thoughts are what? I did not know. So I will look and then I might have thoughts. Carissa, did you find it frustrating that H3 have struggled so much with lawyers? Is this common in California? I don't know the full extent of their struggle with lawyers. And I don't know how to perceive if it's common. I think it's really a hard thing to vet lawyers as a legal muggle because you don't know exactly what you need from the lawyer, and the lawyer should know what you need, but they don't always until they get into your case. So you could say, hey, I've got this kind of this. And then once you dig into it, it's like, oh no, that's not what this is at all. So it's always frustrating, but it can be hard to find exactly what you need if you don't know. And it seems from what I've heard Ethan say, that the more they understood about their own cases, the more they were able to find lawyers that fit. And that can be absolutely a challenge for people. So yes, it can be. Question in the JC lawsuit, since many of these threats are coming from people IDing themselves as fans of JC, could that end up in the lawsuit? I don't know if that would ever come up in the employment law lawsuit. It will probably come up in settlement conversations, being like, really, now this is what we're doing. I don't know if it'll come out in the lawsuit itself, but we will see. We will see. Can we get merchandise saying Mike? I don't know. I'd have to look. I wonder if Geico has protected it. I wonder if Geico had merch for it. Question, EJ's son, a cop in LA, lived with them. Could lawsuits have negative effects on his career due to his residing in the same house? I don't know all of what LAPD would have to be concerned about because I don't know what him living in that 10,000 square foot house, I don't know what he would know of the business dealings. There would have to be more than him just living there. There would have to be a lot more than him just living there. And even then, I don't know what it would be. If he was an actual participant, that's a totally different thing. There's no evidence of that. I don't know what time frame he lived there. So there would be so much more information needed. But just living there alone, it's not always, if your family's doing stuff that you don't know they're doing, that's not your fault. So I would hope that it wouldn't impact him unless there's something to prove he was some way participating, because what you're not going to be doing is participating in illegal activity. That will absolutely and should impact your career. I just don't know if that's the case here at all. My voice is starting to get bleh. I love this comment. Audra Wood, the Real Housewives, to me, I like Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous Gone Bad. It is kind of like Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous Gone Bad. How many housewives or their husband have been in legal trouble because of illegally gotten money? Well, that's the allegations against Jen Shah. That's the allegations here. That's tangentially the allegations with regards to the Giudices, because it was frauds on applications. So you got money because of the fraud, which is not alleged because they pled and were convicted and went to prison. So them, and I'm sure there's others. Happy birthday, Angela. Yay. Welcome. Wonders if we will see Zillow asked for judicial notice in another court doc. I don't think so. Which is funny. $100 for a cameo. Yes. Who is Jen Shah? A Real Housewife of Salt Lake City. I am way behind on the chat and I apologize because of that. Thank you for the super sticker. We're going to move on soon. Question, if a journalist shows up at your door, I think we all know what I'm talking about. No journalists are showing up at my door. Let's see. What else? Me, I'm basic. Can you see how red my face is? I feel personally attacked. No, it was not a half. I drank the entire thing. It was raspberry and delicious. I drink infrequently, and I also I have like the flush response from my 23andMe results. But yeah, I'm ridiculous. So it's fine. I drink on Friday night live streams, and that's about it. And I am definitely a lightweight when it comes to that. Will you be discussing soon the lawsuit of Tiffany Moon and Cameron Westcott? I have it on my list to look into the situation. I am not well versed in what is going on. I know a lot, look, between Atlanta and Dallas, like a lot has happened in the last few days. So housewife stuff is always on my list. I just have not pulled it up to even take a peek into it yet. What criminal charges have not yet been filed? The trustee filed docs detailing clients which have not been paid is fraud. Why have criminal charges not been filed yet? I don't know who would be taking that on and taking it out of the bankruptcy court, and if the status of Tom Girardi being in a conservatorship is, I mean, you can't prosecute someone who's not competent, and he's not competent. So I don't know what the purpose of a prosecution would be in that. So let me see. Question with the Boogie situation. Would it change things if in the original interview he told the guy he was mentally ill and had a gun and then basically said, show up and fight? I don't know that fact pattern. So would it change? I mean, would it change the firing of the weapon into the air if he was taunting the guy to like fuck around and find out? I mean, it makes him less empathetic, I would think, if that is the fact scenario. It just makes it less empathetic, but also it can be viewed as hyperbole. It's like it can be viewed as internet beef, where it's like the person who takes it the next step to actually come to the house kind of has the I think the greater weight on that, because now you've driven yourself to the issue where you don't have to make that choice. So for the criminal proceeding, it's, did you fire the thing in a crowded area is really what it's going to boil down to. So the background of it, as for the prosecution, is not going to matter. For the defense, it might matter some. So, question on a side note, I'm loving your nails. Thank you. They are like a chromed green purple hollow dip powder. I have no idea what the name of it is. I will look next time. You guys can go ahead and like the stream. Bingo had Control F on your card. Congratulations. We have not had a good Control F in a while. I'm going to do just a few more and then we'll go. Jason, this is a great question. For situations like the Boogie charge, who decides the charges, an officer on scene or someone after the arrest? Sometimes both. So he actually had a warrant out for him, which means that it was investigated first, likely presented to a district attorney, and the district attorney said the charges should be this. Then the warrants issued for the arrest, and then he, it looks like, turned himself in based on the news reporting. But it looks like he turned himself in from news reporting. That's my kind of memory of what happened. Now, in other cases, when like the police get called to a, contemporaneous crime, a robbery or whatever, and they catch the person they think did it, the police will say that they're booking them for robbery. Those aren't the official charges. That's the booking charge to hold the person. Then it goes to DAs and then is charged. Some jurisdictions work differently. In New York, the police will often decide the charges. They'll be arraigned, and then sometimes it'll get decided by the district attorneys after the fact. So depending on the jurisdiction, it can change. White Claws are about as alcoholic as it's true. It's true. It's very lightweight of me. It's 5% alcohol. It's just, I've also, look, it is. Yes, it is. It is, Diva. It absolutely is. If you don't remember Zima, I love you. I love you still. So I'm going to do a couple more and then we're going to get to court of public opinion. Who plays EJ in the movie? No resemblance, but I vote Julia Roberts for EJ just to come full circle. I kind of love that too. Question. What is an H3? Never heard of it them. Teresa, I'm sure the chat will let you know. H3, we enjoy H3 on this channel. Ethan Klein and his wife, Gila, are the hosts of the H3 podcast and H3 After Dark. Ethan also does the Frenemies podcast with Trisha Paytas, which is a very popular podcast up here on the YouTubes. And they do kind of commentary and variety type shows, I think. The foot soldiers are welcome to define that better in the chat. Is Erika saying gifts were from Tom? Yes. She's essentially saying all this stuff is mine. All my clothes, all my jewelry, all my shit, all my purses, all of that is mine because they were gifted to me by Tom versus I bought this. I went and bought it with my credit card and then it's marital assets bought with marital funds. It's like, no, these were gifts. So they're not marital property. So they don't get sold off in the bankruptcy. Like in Pretty Little Lies, when she's like, why do you want, well, no, it wasn't Pretty Little Lies. Was it? I'm blanking, but the bank, I think it was Pretty Little Lies, with the bankruptcy that went on. And it was like, do you want it? The one with Reese Witherspoon. I'm going to get it wrong. I do that after I've had drinks at the end of the stream. So free Mike. We do need Cat is my lawyer merch. We absolutely do. If you need a lawyer in California, don't you just hire Saltsy? I mean, you have to be able to afford Saltsy because I am sure that they are in probably upwards of the $1,000 an hour range. That becomes a big thing. But yes. UVA double wahoo. Is that a woohoo? That's a wahoo. Even if you had insurance, wouldn't intentional malicious acts not be covered? Generally, that is the case, but I don't think he had it. So I didn't get to the next step of the analysis, but a lot of times not. Big Little Lies. Thank you. Big Little Lies, which was very well done and a good book. She was like looking at the bankruptcy judge. She's like, my ring. And he's like, everything. We appraise everything to sell for the bankruptcy. I need to find Chrome SNS powder. I believe it is SNS. Next time I go to the salon, I will ask for sure. Question, how is Erika paying for her lawyers? How is she paying for her rental house? She's not in the bankruptcy. So money that she had separately, money from Bravo, whatever, is not pulled into this just yet. That's part of what this fight is over. They're going to find where she has money and try to bring it into the bankruptcy to pay off assets. And she is going, not me. Nope. Do not take my money. Y'all, it is time for Court of Public Opinion. We have been streaming for quite a long while. For those of you that have missed Court of Public Opinion or don't know, Court of Public Opinion is where we get to talk about fun things and kind of decide how we decide. If you saw my conversation today on Eric Hunley's channel, part of our conversation was, how do we define the problem? Like, how do we decide what we're deciding and then going from there? So just to recap, the last number of weeks of Court of Public Opinion has been the YouTube apology tournament. James Charles was crowned worst YouTube apology. I will put the bracket back up on Twitter. I will put it up in the community tab. That is who won. So James is the ultimate winner of worst YouTuber apology. So now we are going to get to the Court of Public Opinion and we're going to decide how to decide, because I need your help deciding what the categories to vote on this are. We're going to have, I think, 4 things to vote on when we get to our topic. So let's get in to the Court of Public Opinion. This is a personal, to me, Court of Public Opinion. This is something that I hold near and dear. I have forgotten to say, do the YouTubey things. You guys, it's time to do the YouTubey things. Go ahead and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Do the YouTubey things. I'm at the Emily D. Baker, other places on the socials. Court of Public Opinion will go up for voting this evening on the community tab and on Twitter. Here's the question. And we will decide, for those of you that are new, welcome, we love you. We will rule on the Court of Public Opinion with an answer on Tuesday. As with anything, you may disagree with the Court of Public Opinion. It's fine. This is for fun and respectful, like, how do we define the problem? And we need to define the problem here. How many browser tabs are too many? Like, I hate to use this word, it's gotten so trendy on YouTube, but is it literally crazy to have 30 browser tabs open? I open my husband's laptop and it's all of the browser tabs and it makes me nuts. I cannot look at them. It is too many. So is it like 1 to 5 is fine? Is it 5 to 10 is fine? Is it like 10 to 15? What the fuck is even happening? And then 15 or more? Like, how many browser tabs is too many browser tabs? Because I'm like a 1 to 5 kind of girl on a good day. So I feel like those are the categories. Maddie's like, I operate with 20 all times law student. It's fair. Because once we get to more, I need 2 screens. Otherwise, it makes me crazy. And I split screen my computer all the time, but I'm still in that 1 to 5 because I'll normally have what I'm researching on one side of the screen and then my document on the other. Amy, 30. That is so many. Tamara's on my page. 4 is too many. When I open my husband's laptop and I'm like, oh my God. Mariah's like, if I can't see the symbol anymore, then it's too many. That's a very good way to judge it. It's like, ooh, they're too small. I cannot. Heather McDonald's like 3 or 4 is my limit. That's generally where I'm at, unless I'm literally running the show and I have browser tabs open, so you don't have to wait for me to find stuff, and then you still have to wait for me to find stuff, which is the worst. Lauren says 10. Karita says all. Just all, literally all of the browser tabs. Let's have them all open. I need about 10 open. I've had about 35 open. No big deal. The thing is, here's how I see it. Those of us that like a few get very freaked out by the many. And those who like many are like, we don't really care. It doesn't matter. We won't talk about my like 100 tabs open on my phone. Oh, this makes my husband crazy. I love you, B. He'll ask me to do something on his phone and I will low key be in his phone trying to do something. And I'll be like, oh, okay. And then I will be swiping out of all of his apps. I'm like, I can't actually help you. I can't think until I can't think until I swipe you out of everything. He will have so many programs open on his phone. And I'm like, swipe. And then he's like, you closed all my shit. I'm like, oh, sorry about that. That's super rude of me to do, but I can't. So people are asking if the tabs are a Google thing. I think all browsers have the browser tabs up at the top, which is what we're talking about, unless you're talking about something else. And I'm sorry. 1 to 5, normally 15 if I have a paper due, which is fair enough. Browser tabs are out. It's all about making groups. Then you have the illusion of only 5 tabs. See, Tech Valor was telling me about this too. And she's like, no, I can show you how to do it. Tech, do you have a video on this? Can we put it in? I think you have a video on how to make groups so you don't need to have all the tabs open, but I haven't figured out how to do that. Melissa B, it might be an ADHD brain thing because my husband is not distracted by all the browser tabs. And I look at it, I'm like, I immediately have a visceral reaction where I can't think when there's too many browser tabs open. After 6, I open a new window. Oh, it's a good point because you're like, swipe, let's go to a new screen, which is very interesting for sure. Seashells Green, thank you so much. This is so funny to me. 16 on my phone, but I close at least that many a few days ago. I close them on my phone too. I have 2 screens, YouTube on one and 10 tabs on the other. I will get to the point where I have 2 screens. Right now, I still split screen my iMac, and I really like it that way, but I totally do. Um, you shouldn't close apps on Apple devices. Oh, Katia, I love swiping out of the apps on the Apple devices. Just formally close them out. But I also do soft resets on my phones maybe way too frequently. So you'll have to tell me why to not to, for sure. I work with 3 screens for work. I'm in as many as possible. 3, I don't even know if I could keep up with 3 screens. I would feel like I was about to launch a shuttle or something. I don't know if I could do that. That's got to be a lot. I mean, that would have to be a lot. Kristen, if you want to share what kind of work you do, not specifically where you work, because too much information for the internet, but if you want to share your general field, I'm fascinated what you're doing with 3 screens. I squishy yarn. See, this is the other side of the ADHD. I look at all the browser tabs and I can't focus, but others are like, no, this is literally my to-do list just opened up on my screens, which is fair. I love it. I operate with 50 all the time and have ADHD. See, and that's the other side of the ADHD is like, no, this is my working to-do list of shit to get done, and that's why it's up there. Oh, Allie, I need to clean out bookmarks. I needed to clean out everything. I needed to go and clean out all my, my Facebook logins that were logged into third-party websites and my Twitter third-party app logins. I just did this morning I did a big clean out because I was reminded that I had insecure things in the back end of the Twitters, that sounds terrible. I have severe ADHD, hardcore medicated for it, and I have over 100 tabs open and it doesn't even register. This is the great thing about this discussion is we all respond differently to things, which is fantastic. Because I really do. I'm like, how to use Google Chrome group tabs to declutter your life. Thank you, Tech, for sharing that. Y'all, there it is. There it is. Chronically Intrigued said exactly, there's already too many tabs open in my head. Why add more? And that's kind of a me too on the way that I scroll. But we all do things differently. I love seeing how you guys are deciding this for sure. Not going to lie, I thought waiting 2 hours to watch while I ate lunch in Japan, I'd be part of the replay crew, not watching at the very end. Welcome. We've gone over about 15 minutes over 2 hours, and I am absolutely it is absolutely time for me. Tech, will you also add the link to your video in the description so that people in the replay can find it pretty easily? And Corey, your hubby lets you touch his phone? Yes. We are just kind of a phone we have logins on each other's computers and we're on each other's phones. Yeah, it's not an issue. Though I try to be respectful and not swipe out, but it's almost force a habit. I'm like, and it's a bad, I'm like, stop, don't do that. It's not fair. I have over 100 tabs on my browser and my phone, yet I must close the apps on the phone. Don't ask me to explain. We all have our own quirks that make it work for our brain. The thing is oh, okay, my brain, this is what makes my brain feel like, and that's the feeling. It's like when it gets to too many tabs for me, I'm like, no. But then when I close them out, it's like, so that works for me. Thank you so much. I enjoyed being on H3 too. My husband uses 3 screens in IT. I imagine that there would be some coding and stuff that it would definitely help to have multiple screens. I just can't fathom it. So yeah, anyway, y'all, it's been a wonderful night. I will do one last plug for the YouTube things. If you have come and joined the channel new, please go ahead, like the video, subscribe. We are live every Friday here for Friday Night Live. We talk about generally a weekly roundup, a case or Q&A, and the court of public opinion. Next week, we will see. Lots will happen, I am sure. I'm interested to see if anything happens in the Triller suit next week. I'm interested to see when we get some filings in the Jen Shaw case. And of course, the Girardi case just keeps on chugging. We'll be interested to see what the court does with, I'll be very interested to see what it does with Ron Richards. I think, again, with that, Twitter's not as big of an issue as the actual other client. I think that's going to be the thing. So that's where we're at. I appreciate you for being here. I appreciate you for being a law nerd. I look forward to seeing you next Tuesday. I am live for Coffee and Cursey Words at 11. I might have to change the time on Tuesday because I had to move my vaccine appointment. So if I have to change the time, I will let you know. And I will see you guys in the next one. Have a great night. Thanks for being a Leonard. Connect with me everywhere. I'm at the Emily D. Baker. If you guys want to join the text, just text Emily.com. If you want to join the channel, LawNerdsUnite.com. Happy to have you. Support what we do here on the YouTube.